Should you go to university in the UK? Now, this is a question you can only really answer yourself. The fact you're watching this video, I would really recommend you watch a few different videos. I'm quite a contrarian. I'm not pro academia. I'm not necessarily pro university, although I'm not against it either. I left school at 16, did a car mechanics apprenticeship, worked with my hands in one way or another throughout my life, and have only been a student for the last 2 years. So I'm actually a first year BSc psychology student. This is my second university because last year I had to do a foundation degree. As I said, left school at 16, so had no real relevant qualifications to get into university. So I did the foundation degree at one university, swapped to a different one on the first year. So I haven't completed the degree yet, but I'm kind of working my way through it. And because my opinions are probably a little bit different from other people's, I thought I'd put a video out there because it may give you maybe a different insight to what the people that maybe are a bit more pro academia, pro university are going to think. Probably my biggest fear actually going into university, and maybe this is just for me, obviously I'm a mature student, I've had 35 now, quite a few years of different things, seen quite a lot of the world, have different opinions. My biggest fear for myself, and this isn't going to be true for everybody, was just being around Gen Z people, the SJW kind of mindset where everything's very, in my opinion, just broadly speaking, the Gen Z mindset is there. I'll just come and say it. Gen Zs are quite conditioned, right? They're young, naive, and this has happened for previous generations, but they all have their one kind of mindset. And if you don't kind of fit that mold, which I certainly don't, I was very worried about going into university in that environment, around those sort of people. I just basically keep my mouth shut. I'm just a grey man now, grey man it out as much as I can. On a psychology degree, men are obviously, especially at my university, very much in, make up a very small part. It's like 20% male, 80% female. So the fact you're male, you kind of stick out anyway. But I just keep my mouth shut because my personal biggest fear was in that kind of real SJW environment where, if you've got life experiences and then someone says something completely radical that's a little bit crazy, rather than just pointing it out to them, I just stay silent. It's just the easiest way. I've worked in the public sector as well, so I'm kind of used to a lot of the PC SJW culture in that respect. So it doesn't really bother me too much, but I just keep my mouth shut. Just get through the course. Don't say anything that is going to rile people up or make me a target for anybody else. That was my biggest fear. That's not going to be everybody's biggest fear. It really depends on your political opinion. I'm not left, I'm not right wing, but I've had life experience and I have my own opinions. So I keep those opinions to myself because I don't want to make myself a target. Nietzsche said, "A really radical living for truth just isn't possible in a university." A really radical living for truth just isn't possible in a university. So Nietzsche is saying essentially, if you want to get to the highest tier of truth, it's not possible in a university environment. I'd 100% agree with that. He said that about 130 years ago. Things have not got better in that time span. So I think Nietzsche was completely correct on that. If you're aiming for the highest tier of truth, you can go to university, but you're not going to find that truth at university, especially not in today's current climate. I think you really need to also ask yourself, what are you going to university for? Now, if you're going to university for a profession that has some kind of accreditation, like a monopolized accreditation system, so like doctor, lawyer, dentist, those sort of jobs that you cannot practice without a piece of paper from a university, and then in some cases further training. If you need that piece of paper to train and that's the job you really want to do, then the answer is easy, isn't it? If you go to university. But if you're unsure what you want to ultimately do, or you're looking at a career path that doesn't actually require a degree, then I would probably, in my opinion, if I was in that set of circumstances, probably lean not towards going to university. Most good jobs after you graduate require you've done like an internship or volunteer work or paid or unpaid work at some level, because the employer wants to see relevant work experience. So every job is going to be different, and some jobs is going to be easier to do than others. But why not just leave school at 16 or 18 or whatever, and just work 3-4 years, build yourself up, and then you're kind of already ahead of the people leaving university. You've proven you can do the job. You've been doing it for the last 3 years. that kind of makes sense to me. So if you're unsure if you should go to university, to me, that kind of leans towards not going, because there's other things that you could be doing. Obviously, if you just have a passion for learning, which I do, I love reading in my own time, I watch documentaries in my own time. You have that choice between university and autodidact, as in, self-learning. Self-learning is very efficient. You can watch lectures, YouTube videos, documentaries, and you hone in on your core interest. When you go to university, there you're learning so much stuff that maybe it's important and it's good to learn it, and it gives you like a well-rounded balance of stuff, but it's not really what you're interested in. So from the passion for learning point of view, autodidact, in my opinion, you can't really beat it. That's passion. That's, the stuff I do at university is okay. It's in psychology, which is an area that I'm really passionate about, but I get far more interest just watching a YouTube lecture, or even a podcast about psychology, and it's honed in on a specific area of psychology that I'm really interested in. Obviously, first year, especially for psychology, it's really broad. It's really kind of like, well, you're just doing a little bit of all different areas, and that kind of makes it a little bit boring. Honestly, it's a little bit, even though it's a subject I'm really interested in. Autodidact, in my opinion, is a lot more efficient. It's a lot more interesting. You have to realize university is a business, and it's noticeable. It's really noticeable, in my opinion. It feels like a business. It's run like a business. Yeah, they do lots of good stuff, and with the money they take in, they do good stuff like put sports on. I don't really have time for any of that, because I'm trying to run a family. I'm trying to get lots of things done. But if you're young, like 18, yeah, there's loads of good opportunities out there. But ultimately, believe it's a business. Especially when I did the foundation degree at my previous university, it really felt like a sales pitch. We were only like foundation students, and already they were like, this was during COVID, so everything was online at that point. But you could feel like you're almost being pushed towards the master's streams. Okay, do the foundation here, then do the bachelor's, and then we'll get you onto the master's. It really felt like you're already on this treadmill to bolstering the university's profits. So if you don't need to go to university, you can probably do the same function for 1/100th of the price. Free YouTube lectures, reading your own books. So that's just one you need to make up yourself. And since COVID, so much is online now, which doesn't really bother me, because actually commuting into the university is actually a pain for me. So the more online, the better for me. But for the students that are living on campus, and to be living there, and sometimes half your lectures are online, it's a bit of a waste of time, and you sort of think, what are you really getting from this? Just watching these PowerPoints. So, it opens you up to new experiences, and that's great, especially if you're young. But if you're a mature student like me, I've had plenty of life experiences that I don't really need to get much from that. So it's not really that relevant to the mature student. But for the young 18-year-old, yeah, you're probably going to get a lot from that. One thing I would actually definitely consider, that maybe is a little bit controversial to say, but if you're unsure about university, maybe consider the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, something like that. Because from just being an Army reservist and being deployed, going overseas, stuff like that, it's a very kind of, in some ways, the vibe's very similar. In the Army, they put on loads of sports for you, and there's adventure training, and in certain roles, they'll pay you to do a degree. So in the military, you get paid, and you get all the similar things of university, the camaraderie, the drinking culture, if you're into that, going to do sports. It's a very similar thing. But university, you end up, like, what is it, like 27 grand in debt. And the debt's not really as bad as people say it is, because it's pretty much voluntary if you want to pay back that loan or not. It just really depends how much you earn after your degree, and at what age you do the degree. In my foundation course, there were people doing degree at like 60 years old. that student loan is never going to get paid back on a 60-year-old. So the student loan thing really isn't, I wouldn't really worry about the debt personally. But when you could be, in the military getting paid, 22 grand a year or something like that, maybe really consider that. The military has a lot of overlaps with university. Yeah, you can get a degree through the military if you're smart, and or you can get a good trade and come out with it. So university isn't the only thing in life that is going to open you up to good experiences, in my opinion. Maybe it's a little bit controversial to say, who knows. Why did I go to university? Well, I've worked a lot of different jobs, and I personally I like experiencing having experiences that. Well, I've been in the Army Reserve. I pretty much almost went like full time on that at one point, even though it was the reserves. I think in 1 year I did like 200 days or 220 days, which is pretty much like full time. I've done that. I've worked in the public sector. I've worked in a prison. I've worked with homeless people and drug addicts. I like lots of different. For me, life. I very much like a life of contrast. And I thought, doing a degree. Ultimately, with this degree, I want to be able to help people, and especially like help like homeless people and people with addictions and things like that. So I kind of have a want for the degree. But also a part of me was like, well, everybody talks about university. Maybe I should just go. I'll get this bit of paper at the end of it, and I actually think I can apply that bit of paper in situations where it will help other people. I can help homeless people and help people that are addicted to various substances. And I'll be honest with you, as a mature student, this may seem odd from someone who, if you've watched some of my other videos, is quite like small government and believes in low taxes. But the benefits, especially for a mature student, are very, very generous. I must say that they are very, very generous, to the point that, my opinion, I think that the benefits for students are too much. That's what I would say. Especially if you've got kids, there's all sorts of childcare grants and stuff like that, and that is helpful. Ultimately, I believe that I'll pay more in taxes than I get now, which I think is a good thing. That not people shouldn't just be taken from the state aimlessly. But I'll just say this: that the benefits, and no student should ever complain. no student should ever complain. I think some of the benefits from mature students are even higher. So those are my reasons. University isn't everything. I would really consider seriously if it's a job that doesn't require the bit of paper, then I would probably lean towards no. If that's really what I think if you're going to if you definitely know you want to go to university, then if you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, those sort of things, you need to go. But if you're unsure, really consider it. Watch a few other YouTube videos as well, because those people may be more pro academia, less trying to force you into the Navy like I'm doing. But I would also consider the military, because a lot of the things that people go to university for, you do get that in the military, and you get paid for it, and you'll meet like-minded individuals, and there is that drinking party culture as part of it, which a lot of people are basically just going to university for. So that's essentially my thoughts and opinions on it. Maybe you'll find this useful. That's just my opinions on it. As I say, I'm only a first year undergraduate, but I think my opinions are pretty sad. So it's basically the second year of doing university. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. Maybe it's of some use, and good luck with your studying, if that's what you choose to do. University or in your own time. Never stop learning. Just because you're not at university, you never stop learning. Read, lectures, it's all available online. And this is say that, this is nothing against my university. I actually think it's a really good university. I think all the lecturers are great. I have no issues with that at all. But obviously, everybody has their individual opinions, and these are just mine. But the university on the whole is great. So see you next time.